My name is Colette Pelt, and 2 years ago I started the foundation Picture Books Plus. I was a teacher at primary school.
The microphone should get up a bit.
Middle. Okay, so it's all right. I was a teacher at primary school and I have always had an interest in reading. I started my study at Tilburg University. I did all these things because I thought that good reading is the best start for a child's future. At university, I did my master's in children's literature. My research was about picture books for the blind. I designed a model to see which is the best way to adapt a regular picture book to a tactile book. When I finished my study, I wanted to make a transfer from the theoretical idea to a practical idea. So I chose a regular picture book and made a prototype. I visited some experts and they liked the idea. I looked for contact with a publisher, and when the first book was printed, I visited teachers in regular primary schools with some special needs children. So Picture Books Plus was founded so that every pupil is able to share this experience. Since that moment, 7 tactile books have been published. On the slide there's a photograph of a classroom with pupils are sitting in a circle around the teacher. She's reading aloud a picture book to her pupils. The leading theme of this presentation is how can blind and partially sighted children participate in interactive reading. For all children, interactive reading is an important stage to get familiar with reading. Let me tell you what interactive reading is all about. What is typical? What is typical for interactive reading is the interaction between teacher and pupil beforehand, during and after the text. Before the teacher asks questions about the book genre, story content, like pointing to the cover asking, what do you think the story will be about? During the reading, the teacher asks predicting or projecting questions like, how do you think he's feeling? How do you think she will solve this? Or what's happening here? Besides this, there can be a discussion on the relationship between text and illustrations or the meaning of the unknown words. Afterwards, the pupils and teachers discuss the content of the book, the characters, theme, storyline. How? By using picture books. But if you cannot see much, you cannot ask many questions. That's why you have to be able to feel the picture. Picture Books Plus developed picture books with the complete original text and adapted tactile illustrations. Teachers who worked with the method are happy with the reading material presented for the blind children so that their pupils could participate in learning conversations. For instance, the lovely expression of the killer gorilla. On the slide is an original illustration of the picture book Killer Gorilla. It's a smiling gorilla with mice on his shoulder. But is this all you can say about this illustration? No, it isn't. At the end of this presentation, I will get back to you and hopefully I will have made this clear. On the next slide, I will discuss the specific difficulties blind children encounter in reading picture books. Most of the current tactile books aim to develop children's tactile sense. Besides this development, there's another important goal to achieve, the language development of visual impaired children. I would like to explain what specific kind of language difficulties these children come across and what to do to solve or to minimize this. Firstly, most of the visual impaired children talk a lot, but nevertheless they have problems filling in some language issues. Secondly, another very difficult element of picture books is the complementary existence of text and illustrations. What is written in text isn't drawn in illustrations, and vice versa. What's drawn in illustrations isn't mentioned in text, so just text is not enough for the blind reader. I have structured the language problems in different categories. The three major categories are body language, figurative language, visual language, and I'll give you some examples in the next slides. The first category I would like to discuss is body language. On the slide is a koala bear. In the top of the tree on the ground you see Mother Mouse. The first thing that draws attention is the mouse who is stretching her arms out and leaning her head back. What does it mean to stretch your arms? What does it mean, the combination of leaning your head back and stretching your arms out? You will catch something? Or are you desperate? Only by discussing the storyline can these questions be solved. Body posture is not the same as body language, but also difficult to understand. What does it mean, leaning your head back? What do we see? Look at the position of the mouse's head. Her head is resting on the back of her neck. When do sighted people do this? When they want to see something that's above them. The knowledge of body language and body posture have to be discussed and imitated, so that children can memorize it. This kind of advice is given in the reading manual provided with Picture Books Plus. The next category I would like to explain is figurative language. Figurative language is when you compare something with something else. A line in the picture book Gruffalo says, "And quick as the wind he turned and fled." What do you imagine when you hear this line? What do you think about when you hear this sentence? Is this maybe where you think about? On the next slide there's a boy who is on this slide is a boy who is holding the coat of his father and is flying in the wind. Or do you think about a picture on the next slide? On this slide is Gruffalo running away with big steps. How can you make this interactive? You can emphasize specific elements in the illustration. What are big steps? You have your feet far from each other. How can I see he is running? He's leaning a little bit forward, or imitate the posture. Stand up and do it by yourself. Tell what you are doing. It makes it easier to talk about. Or declare the similarities with the figurative expressions. The next category is perhaps the most difficult language, visual language. On this slide it is raining in the jungle. A monkey with her baby is sitting on a branch. In her hand she is holding an umbrella. Next to her is Mother Mouse and she has also an umbrella. On the left there's the tactile version. In visual language, thoughts are transferred not by written or spoken language, but by pictures. In this example, what does the rain in the illustration mean? The Mother Mouse has lost her child. She's very upset, worried about her little baby. The bad weather conditions is telling something about her emotional state. The rain is reflecting her emotions. I would like to summarize. Body language, figurative language and visual language are difficult to understand, and in the next slide I'll show you a tool how you could help your young visual impaired pupil. A child with special needs requires a teacher with special skills, and Picture Books Plus, an education method for pupil and teacher. On the slide you see a photograph of a complete Picture Books Plus set. There's a cuddly toy, a tactile book for the low-sighted and blind children, a reading manual for the teacher, and a regular picture book you can buy in a bookstore. How can a child with a handicap participate in reading at school like their peers? And especially, how can a visual impaired child participate in interactive reading? I will show you what kind of tools Picture Books Plus teachers can give, so all their pupils, whether they are sighted, low-sighted or blind, can talk about the same picture book. On the slide there's the first item. In the case of the picture book Killer Gorilla, it's a cuddly gorilla. The function of one or more touchable objects are to explain the main items or characters, but also to engage the children in the story, to make them curious, maybe to recall old memories or events. For instance, for one of our latest books, we have sewn a red soft velvet cape. It's an introduction to get involved in the story. The next slide will show the tactile picture book. The tactile picture book on the photograph was our prototype with braille and red printed text. Now all text is printed black. As I've told you, a difficult element of picture books is the complementary existence of text and illustration. So how can we help the blind reader? The original illustration is simplified in the tactile version. The main element of the storyline is printed. The tactile pictures are bigger to recognize figures, and they have to be separated, and their body posture can be felt and then imitated. And a few words to understand the picture next to or close to the tactile drawing. For the little ones, there is the braille just to come in contact with their font. My name is Mark. Hey, I feel the first letter of my name. An additional advantage is the opportunity to experience the translation from 2D to 3D and vice versa. At the end of my presentation, you will see how this works. The third object of Picture Books Plus set is the reading manual. The reading manual for the teacher's question, how do I involve my blind pupil when I read a picture book out aloud? The teacher needs help to fill the gap. There are a lot of tips in the reading manual. The knowledge of visual and figurative language have to be discussed. Body language and body posture have to be imitated to memorize it. Also, the reading manual is to think about the link between 3D, in this case the cuddly toy, to the illustration and vice versa. And the last part of Picture Books Plus set is the regular picture book. An original book is important because that's the source for the teacher and the connection to the classmates, and to be aware in the lack in visual language. Composition and colors are important to tell the complete story. So, I would like to conclude Picture Books Plus gives the opportunity to discuss difficult aspects of our language. The teacher involves the pupils actively in the reading. Text and pictures of a picture book invite children to talk about, to discuss, to compare the different pictures, and to give a prediction how the story will end. Also, they can discuss the body, figurative and visual language. What does it mean to them? On this slide you see the teacher holding up the picture book for her pupils, and the low-sighted boy is touching his own tactile picture book. In front of him, his parents have read the book at home the weekend before it is read in the class, so that Dan won't miss the point when his classmates are laughing. The last slide is the same as the third slide with the illustration of the regular book. But now, on the right, there is an original illustration, on the left, a tactile illustration of the picture book Killer Gorilla. It is the gorilla with mice on his shoulder. What you can see here is a good example of body language. I will care for you. There isn't any figurative language, and visual language is presented by the rising sun. It could symbolize a new beginning. At the start of my presentation, I asked if the illustration was only a smiling gorilla with two mice. And I promised to get back to you, and now I hopefully have made it all clear to you. There's more to say and to discuss about illustrations. The aim of Picture Books Plus with the tactile illustrations is to give teachers the right entrance to help them to communicate. The blind pupil is challenged to ask questions about illustration. This is what interactive reading is all about. What is the function of the tactile pictures? It's not a tool, it's a tool and not a goal. Sorry. Besides, there's a possibility to mentally connect 2D to 3D. In the next video, you'll see Tess. Tess is a 5-year-old blind girl and is showing the interpretation from 2D to 3D. She can translate a tactile picture to cuddly toys on the table. Now we are going to watch a short video of Tess and her mother who are reading the picture book Killer Gorilla together. The girl knows the story. It has been read aloud to her several times. The illustration on the tactile book is the gorilla with mice on his shoulder. Tess had picked up from her bedroom, a little tiny cuddly mouse and a cuddly dog. So when she's feeling the tactile picture, she's putting the mice of the picture book on the shoulder of the gorilla, and after that her own mouse on the shoulder of her own dog. And I will end with this video. Thanks for your attention.
Hier, ze zit op de rug. Dit is de gorilla. En hier zit de babymuis en de mamamuis op de rug. Zullen we dat hier ook doen? Deze gorilla. En zo. Nou, zet jij ze allemaal op. Denk je dat Piepje er ook bij kan?
Ja.
Ja? Nou, zet Piepje er ook bij.
Nee, die gaat op rakken.
Oh, oké. Want die blijft hier, hè?
Ja.
Oké. Zo.
Die blijft hier.
Maar is Rakker dan ook een gruwelijke gorilla?
Okay, thank you.
Colette, thank you very much. Does anyone have a question for Colette?
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much. This was wonderful.
Thank you.